Golden Child's sister who cut me off came to me claiming abuse. I helped her file for divorce, only to discover she was the cheater and testified against her. About a year ago, my younger sister Hannah, who's 27, tied the knot with Jacob, her boyfriend of 2 years who's 30. I'm Hannah's older sister by 2 years, and we used to be super close as kids. But then, as life would have it, we kind of drifted apart once I moved out for college. Our chats became less frequent, and by the time we both graduated and got jobs, our lives were so different that we had practically nothing to talk about. Plus, we had this ridiculous falling out about 6 years ago over something so minor that I can't even remember what it was. Since then, we barely spoke to each other. We'd only see each other during family gatherings for holidays, and even then, we hardly exchanged words. Honestly, it wasn't like we were hostile, we just didn't interact. After our dad passed away last year, I really distanced myself from the family. My mom was always closer to Hannah, so they had their own thing going on. Whenever I tried to visit my mom, I felt like a third wheel, so I just kept to myself. Work kept me busy too, so I wasn't really in touch with either of them. Then, out of the blue, 2 weeks ago, Hannah showed up at my place in the middle of the night. She was in a state, begging me to let her stay with me because Jacob had turned abusive and she desperately needed a safe place. Despite us not being close for years, I couldn't turn her away. It was serious, and as her sister, I had to help. She arrived with nothing but some cash and her cards, constantly apologizing for showing up, unannounced but explaining she had nowhere else to go. I had just moved into a new apartment, so she felt safe, knowing Jacob wouldn't find her there. To keep her safe, I told everyone in the family not to give out my address without my permission. Hannah confided in me that Jacob had been controlling and manipulative from the get-go. She thought marriage might change him, but things only got worse. He made her cut off her friends, saying they weren't the right company for her, and recently started pressuring her to quit her job to focus on household chores. They'd been arguing about this for weeks. The night she ran away, he came home drunk, yelling at her because the dishes weren't done. She was exhausted from work and hadn't found time yet. Instead of just arguing as usual, he shoved her and that was it for her. She waited for him to fall asleep, then bolted to my place because she didn't know where else to go. I was puzzled why she didn't go to our mom, since they're close. But Hannah told me she had talked to our mom first, and the advice was shocking. Mom told her that sometimes men act this way and she just had to deal with it. She said marriage is tough and leaving is the easy way out, implying Hannah should stay and work on the marriage. My mom's advice was to stick it out, maybe try counseling, but ultimately stay with him. I couldn't believe it. I told Hannah she didn't have to put up with that and that Jacob wasn't going to change. He needed to face the consequences of his actions. I connected her with a friend whose dad is a divorce attorney. 2 days later, she filed for divorce, and Jacob was served soon after. We both blocked him so he couldn't contact us. Hannah even talked to our mom, who, after learning Jacob had physically shoved her, finally agreed that leaving was the right choice. So, Mom blocked him too, and we cut all ties with him. For about a week, I thought I finally understood the situation and was happy to help Hannah, thinking it might bring us closer together. But then, a week later, I bumped into Jacob at a restaurant near my workplace. He was with colleagues and I was grabbing lunch. I'd forgotten his office was nearby. When he saw me, he literally chased me down because I tried to avoid him. He kept calling my name, so I finally turned around to talk to him. So get this. I told him straight up that if he tried anything funny, I'd call the cops. He was totally taken aback and said he just wanted to talk about the divorce. I made it clear that things were finalized and there was no way I'd let Hannah go back to him. He looked even more puzzled and said that the divorce had actually been his idea. Now, that threw me for a loop, because it was the last thing I expected to hear. As we kept talking, it hit me that Hannah had been feeding me lies and maybe even my mom was in on it. He explained that the night Hannah left without a word, he had suggested the divorce after discovering she was having an affair with a coworker. He had caught them together when he showed up at her office to surprise her. From that point, he couldn't stay with her. She had fought to save their marriage, willing to end the affair, but Jacob just couldn't trust her anymore. He had suspected the affair for a while and that night confirmed it. The next day, he planned to discuss everything with her and even considered moving out to give her space. But by morning, she was gone, and she had blocked him everywhere. Mom, me, and all her friends had also blocked him. So he was completely cut off. Then he got the divorce papers and was shocked by her demands. She wanted an outrageous settlement and alimony, which he found absurd since they made similar money and she had been cheating. To be honest, I didn't know the specifics of the petition because I just hooked Hannah up with a lawyer without really checking the details. I trusted she was handling it. Even if I had seen it, I would have thought it was justified because I believed Hannah's story about being abused by Jacob. But after hearing Jacob out and seeing his proof, screenshots and messages from Hannah's laptop that she stupidly left behind, I realized I'd been duped. The messages clearly showed her affair. Feeling super conflicted, I apologized to Jacob for making him chase me down and put himself in an awkward position. He just wanted me to help Hannah see reason and adjust the divorce terms so everything could be settled quickly and smoothly. I agreed to help. When I confronted Hannah, she denied everything, even after I mentioned Jacob's evidence. She accused me of trusting a random stranger over her, but Jacob wasn't a stranger to me. Despite Hannah avoiding me at family events, Jacob was always polite and soft-spoken. It seemed out of character for him to be abusive. I wanted to believe Hannah, but knowing her knack for manipulation and lying, I wasn't so sure. Her defensive reaction only solidified my doubts. After a heated argument, I told her to leave, and she eventually did. Shortly after, Mom called and I could hear Hannah crying in the background. Mom was furious with me for siding with Jacob, but I was too drained to argue and told her I was done talking about it. Since then, we haven't spoken. A couple of days ago, Jacob reached out because I had unblocked him. He's gathering testimonials to disprove Hannah's claims, and he said my testimonial would be really valuable. So here's the deal. She was literally my sister, and even though I spoke up in his favor, it would have been great if he had said there was no pressure. But honestly, I wanted to do the right thing. Apparently, Hannah refused to change the terms of the petition, and my friend's dad wasn't willing to work with her anymore. They ended up switching lawyers but still demanded the same things. To make it worse, they claimed Jacob was abusive, and that was why she cheated. According to her, this mess was all Jacob's fault, which was super convenient for her and really ticked me off. I felt played, which is why I agreed to testify against Hannah. Yesterday, I finally stood up for Jacob during their mediation session, and I felt pretty relieved afterward. But, of course, my mom and Hannah were beyond pissed. My mom actually called me this morning, furious, and asked why I testified against Hannah, my biological sister. I told her straight up that I did what I believed was right, and there was no point fighting about it. But Mom wasn't having it. She just kept yelling and even threatened to ruin my life. I found it amusing because I know she can't do anything to ruin my life. I told her to give it a shot, but it wouldn't work, which made her cry. She said I deserved it because I sabotaged my sister when I could have just kept quiet. I could hear Hannah in the background yelling at Mom to hang up, calling it hopeless to talk to me since, according to her, I only think about myself and my inflated ego. I thought that was way over the top. By the way, a lot of people have been asking why Hannah came to stay with me instead of going to our mom. Honestly, I have no idea. Maybe she was being truthful when she said Mom gave her bad advice to stick it out with Jacob, or maybe she wanted me on her side for the divorce. It's possible she wanted financial help and thought staying with me would be the best way to reconnect. I'm not entirely sure, but I'll figure out their motives eventually. Update 1. It's been 8 days since I last spoke to Mom and Hannah after that phone call. I blocked them because their words were so upsetting, and many of you suggested it was the right move. Since then, I've been getting loads of hate mail from weird email addresses, which I figured had to be from them. They called me egoistic and selfish, saying I didn't deserve to be happy and that my dad would have hated me now. That stung. But I'm not even surprised. What's the point of sending hate mail? It's not going to help them in the divorce. It might even backfire if I show it to Jacob's lawyer. But the comment about my dad really got to me. I'd been ignoring their emails, but after that one I decided to email Hannah at her work and told her to stop. If she didn't, I'd make things worse for her. She replied, daring me to unblock her and call instead of being a coward. I don't see what's cowardly about blocking someone, but fine. I unblocked her and we talked. She admitted they were behind the emails but claimed they had their reasons. She thought if I got flustered, I'd reach out to her, and then she could get me to testify for her, saying Jacob pressured me into testifying against her the first time. I was stunned. After all the lies and drama she dragged me into, she had the nerve to ask for my help again? I reminded her that our relationship had been strained for 6 years and welcoming her into my home was supposed to be a fresh start, but she blew it by lying. If she hadn't dragged me into this mess, I probably wouldn't have testified against her. You know, I could have just kept my mouth shut and stayed out of the whole mess. But when she lied to me, that was the last straw. I decided to help Jacob out, and honestly, this whole situation is her own fault. I wasn't in the wrong at any point. Since I wasn't wrong, there was no need for me to apologize to her or try to make amends. So, I decided to be upfront and told her that she was right about those emails bothering me. I admitted that she had correctly predicted I'd get flustered and unblock her to talk about it. I had to give her that. She saw it coming. But then I laid it out for her. If she tried anything else with me, I'd go straight to Jacob with those emails and help him even more. I wanted to show that Hannah wasn't the strong, upright person she was pretending to be. Instead, she was a manipulative and cunning piece of work. Hannah lost it and started screaming that I wouldn't do any of that, and if I did, she'd make me pay for it. But honestly, I don't think she or my mom have the power to ruin my life like they claim. They don't even know me well enough to find any dirt on me. I've lived a pretty average life, and I always try to stay out of trouble. I prefer keeping an honest and clear conscience. So even if they started digging, they wouldn't find anything. Their threats didn't scare me. I just wished her the best of luck, ended the call while she was still talking, and blocked her again. And this time, I'm committed to not unblocking her, no matter what. I'll talk to them in person if needed, but I'm not unblocking them, especially after the recent updates. So, it's been a few days since I last spoke to my sister. Apparently, if you can't find dirt on someone, you just make up stories and post them online. I got messages from several relatives saying that my mom and Hannah had been posting multiple made-up stories about me, trying to defame me, bringing up stuff from high school that nobody could verify. According to them, I was a total jerk to Hannah in high school, always jealous of her popularity, constantly talking crap about her, and trying to bring her down when she was home. They painted me as the villain, while Hannah was always trying to befriend me. They said some really cruel things that I don't even want to get into because it's just not worth it. When I saw screenshots of those posts, my blood literally started boiling. I can't even file a defamation lawsuit against them because it's just their word against mine right now. I'm not sure if this even counts as defamation, but it sure is annoying. I think I need to lose something tangible to take action against them. Until that happens, it's just them talking crap about me, online. I did send them a warning email because I had them blocked everywhere else. I told them if they didn't take it down, I'd be forced to take action. They haven't taken it down yet, probably because they're not scared enough, but I've been talking with an attorney, and I think if we send a legal notice, they might stop. I also figured out why Hannah came to me all those days ago instead of staying with Mom. Jacob reached out to thank me for testifying against Hannah, saying the proceedings were going in his favor. I took that opportunity to ask him if he had any idea why Hannah came to me. He told me that. Oddly enough, despite us not being on good terms for a long time, she always spoke highly of me when it came to work. She wasn't wrong about one thing. I do have a promising career ahead of me. Not to brag, but I earn more than most people my age. Jacob guessed that Hannah wanted to start a business and might have come to me hoping to win me over during the divorce and then get me to fund her business after it was finalized. Jacob also mentioned that the guy she had an affair with was pretty rich, being a senior at her workplace. He only found out about it recently. Knowing this, everything makes sense now. Of course, she was after the money. I should have realized this from the beginning. Anyway, everything is finally adding up. If she and my mom don't take down those posts soon, I'm going to send them a legal notice and take action, whether I win the lawsuit or not. It doesn't make a difference to me, but I'm determined to get them to take it down. Update 3. Hey, so it's been a week since my last update, and luckily, one legal notice from my lawyer was all it took for them to take down the posts. I guess, with the divorce going in Jacob's favor, Hannah didn't want to risk anything else. So they took it all down. After the last update, a lot of you asked what exactly was said in those posts. At the time, I didn't want to get into it. But basically they tried to make me out as the villain in Hannah's life. They said I had bullied her throughout her life, spoke negatively about her body, and shamed her for her appearance. For the record, I would never do that to anyone, especially since I've experienced it myself, and it's not something nice at all. I guess they said that because they knew I'm a huge advocate for body positivity. saying that about me was their way to really sting. So, they were basically saying that I'd ruin my reputation. Can you believe it? Not only that, they also claimed that I supposedly tried to flirt with all of her boyfriends back when we were roommates. They think I did it because I couldn't handle her, getting all the attention from guys while I was pretty much ignored. And get this, apparently they think I'm still at it trying to win Jacob over to my side. It's so ridiculous and gross that they would even suggest such a thing. I can't believe they thought those things, let alone felt it was okay to plaster it all over social media. Anyway, most of the stuff they posted was super nasty and over-the-top negative about me. They've since taken it all down, so I guess that's a win. A part of me was kind of bummed they removed everything so quickly. Though I was ready for a showdown to set things straight and teach them a lesson. But I suppose it's better this way. I can just move on and focus on my own stuff without getting sucked into all that drama. Both of them are still on my block list. And trust me, they're staying there for the foreseeable future. That's how it should be. And honestly, if my dad were alive today, I know this is exactly the kind of advice he'd give me too.